What's up, guys? Krabby Critics here. Welcome to the third and final review of week 4 of the October Horror Show. Today we're going to be reviewing John Carpenter's Halloween. So Halloween is about the infamous killer Michael Myers after he breaks out of a mental institution after being in there for 15 years, and he comes out and goes back to his hometown to stalk a couple of high school girls. Now, what did you think about this movie?
I thought it was great. This was my first time watching it, and we were able to see it in a actual theater, which was super awesome. It was definitely like the atmosphere of being in a theater was great. I was really into it. One thing that like going into it, because I knew that I've seen like the end of the movie a couple times, but never actually watching the whole thing through. I was kind of ready for just a cheesy slasher, but it really wasn't cheesy.
Yeah.
And it puts all the other slashers that are trying so hard, it puts them all to shame. And this one is just, it's really something. Like, I love the whole like the stalker thing about it. And he's just like, he keeps showing up and like in the distance and whatnot. And I actually like, I didn't know at all that he would be driving a car. Like, it just, that never, like, it's not a big deal, but like it kind of is at the same time, because all these killers are never like actually driving a car.
Yeah.
And so like there was definitely a human side of him, even though there was like the whole supernatural can't be killed thing. But I did enjoy the fact that there was a human side to him, because it was like all these other killers in these other slasher movies, they can't be touched. But Michael very much well can be touched. He gets right back up. And I just think that is super cool, because like just so many, pretty much every slasher movie, all the teens, the victims, they're just victims. They just die. They don't do anything. And Jamie Lee Curtis is just straight up like grabs a pin and sticks it in his neck. And that was like actually one of my favorite scenes. That was super cool. And it keeps going. And it's not like oh, you got him, oh, he's back alive, now the movie's over. It happens so many times. And it's like, it's crazy. And then like just the quality of the film did not feel like an old movie, really. It I mean, like, yeah, you can tell, but
yeah,
the quality is really modern day quality. And the writing was decent, and
right,
it was all around a great movie.
Yeah, definitely. What did you think of it?
This movie was sorry. This movie was a pretty good one. I haven't seen it in quite a long time, so I wasn't, even if I were to, you know, like, it would have been when I was younger, and I had kind of a different perspective on this character as a whole. I would have to agree and say that yes, he is the kind of like, he has a supernatural side where he pops up everywhere and stuff and gets back up and everything, but he can be like, he can't be like killed necessarily, but he can be stopped. And it leaves us sort of like, oh, there's kind of hope, but at the same time it's like, no, there's not, because he'll just get right back up.
Right.
But it leaves kind of like a little bit of a war between just him and all of his victims throughout the series. And it's more of like a, how do you stop him? Well, you can't really kill him, but you can stop him. And then he'll, you know, it's just a never ending kind of cycle with him. I'd say it might be one of my favorites, maybe like top 3 for like all slasher characters in general. And it was definitely a movie that wasn't necessarily like, it was serious when it came to like the killing and stuff, but the characters had their jokes. Annie, she had a humor to her that I was laughing at. She was pretty funny in it, and then there was just humor that I could just laugh at, and it was funny, like just cheesy, stupid stuff. Which there were cheesy moments where you can see that they're clearly not talking, but like you could hear the words going over, like kind of like a distant shot where it's like her walking with the kid after getting off school, and it's just like they're talking. And he's like, "Can we eat popcorn? Can we do this?" And he's just literally sitting there like the entire time just walking. You can just totally tell it. But yeah, other than that, I feel like they can kind of get away with that. But overall, I did think this movie was, yeah, 100% a solid classic slasher film, and it really did spark the genre in a way as far as like these big kind of supernatural killers and killers in general from this kind of set off a chain reaction, which made like Friday the 13th and everything like that, which was awesome. So very much so props to this movie. What did you think about it?
This is my favorite slasher movie. It may even be, it's one of, if not my favorite horror movie of all time. Absolutely love this movie, always have. And I just, the character of Michael, I've always loved that human side of him, but he also does have that supernatural side of him. He also you guys have kind of touched up on it. He can be put down, but he can't die. He just keeps coming back. And so he's just, to me, he's always been like the most, I guess, for me personally, I've always liked him the most out of all the slashers, characters wise. But yeah, I mean, John Carpenter did a phenomenal job directing this movie and scoring it and everything. The soundtrack is, I mean, the theme song is one of the most recognizable soundtracks, at least tunes, that you can come across in movies. You hear it and you know exactly what it's from. And yeah, extremely low budget movie, and I believe it is one of the most like profitable movies ever. Yeah. Which is just crazy. But no, I absolutely love this movie. The characters are great. I like the characters a lot. Jamie Lee Curtis just sort of starting that whole like the virgin survives, that sort of thing, you know, like while the other characters are kind of doing their thing, sleeping around. She's the original Scream Queen. Like it's just sort of, she started that whole like, I think that's the final girl is what they call it. Is she's that, and she sort of started that, and I mean, she's great. I think Annie and Linda are like, they're pretty good. They're just like Annie's, you know, kind of comical. Linda has her certain moments where she's goofy, but I mean, there are like certain scenes where like they aren't the greatest at their acting, but like Jamie Lee Curtis, usually through the whole thing, she's pretty solid through the whole thing. And so, but the other two, you know, they have their moments where they're pretty good, but then they have their other moments where they're sort of
So there's that one book scene where she's just talking about the school book.
Oh yeah. So there's shortly after the movie starts, it's after Michael gets out, and Jamie Lee Curtis and her two friends are walking down the street, and there's this one particular scene where Michael is like coming around the corner behind them, and she's what did she say? She's like, she's like, or Jamie Lee Curtis. It's like, oh crap, I forgot my books, and then she's like, oh, I always forget my books. I always forget this book and this book and this book, and then like Jamie Lee Curtis like turns around and like notices the car coming up behind him and like driving down the street, and then you're not really supposed to pay attention to the background, to the background noise. You're supposed to just see what's happening, and she's like, I always forget my math book and my history book, and I mean, people always forget their books. It doesn't really matter. Like I people always forget their books. I mean, who really needs their books anyway? I mean, there's really, so you could tell it was kind of like that wasn't really in the script, but it was there. Just keep a conversation going, to have background noise while stuff's going on. But then, kind of going sort of backwards a little bit to the beginning of the movie. One thing I did notice when we saw it at the theater, there's a couple little bits that you don't actually hear really at all when you're watching it at home, because a lot of things are, you know, what tends to be the case with a lot of movies that you see at home, it's some things are louder than others, and it's just the way that it's brought to DVD or brought to Blu-ray or whatever. And there's actually, once Michael's walking up to the house in the very beginning of the movie, and he walks up to the window, and you hear his sister talking to her boyfriend, and on the Blu-ray of the movie, you really don't hear what they're saying.
Really?
Yeah, you can't like really hear them. So when we saw it at the theater and they had the surround sound, you could actually hear her go. You could actually hear him say, "Oh, your parents aren't home. No, they're not going to be home for a while." I've never heard that ever. I just usually it has sounded like distant voices, but you can't really hear it. So I thought that was really cool. And then of course he goes upstairs and kills his sister and goes downstairs, and pretty creepy scene when it's unveiled that it's a child doing it, because if you didn't really know that, it's that unveiling scene of it, because it's first person, if you've seen like Friday the 13th before this, you're like, oh, it's probably an adult, whatever, it's probably just a normal person, and then just like, it's a kid. And then kind of after that, when he's in the mental institution and he breaks out, you get the first scene with Dr. Loomis, which played phenomenally by Donald Pleasance. I love his character so much. But yeah, he goes there and they realize that he's basically broken out, and he takes their car and takes it away. And a lot of people have kind of pointed that out as a flaw. How does he drive his car? Well, I find it kind of funny because in the movie, they never give you the answer, but they acknowledge that he did drive his car.
Know why.
Yeah, they don't know why. So you can't really call it a flaw because they definitely acknowledge that was the case. They just never explained it to you because they really don't need to. Why do I need to know why he's driving the car or how he's driving the car? I don't really care.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, and that's, you touched up on the car thing too. He's driving the car. Now, but it's like, one thing I do really like about it is, like, it's not like there's any like chase sequences where he's chasing them in the car or anything like that. Like, it's like he just kind of stalks them, Basically, after that, Dr. Loomis goes back to the town. He realizes that he is there and he is stalking these three girls. And that is basically the movie overall. And then if you've seen the movie, you know where it goes from there. Mm-hmm. But I don't really need to get into it too much. But this movie to me, I think it was the start of the slasher genre, and it is easily one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Yeah. Absolutely love it. And so I can't talk like enough about this movie. Yeah. But due to time, I will just end it right there, and I'm gonna pass it to you. What would you like rate the movie?
I think that I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed the stalker vibe about Michael. All those shots where you just see him in the distance, especially like when they're in the house and like the kid sees him just like standing in front of the house, mm-hmm. or even the other shot where he's carrying the girl's body,
right? And
the kid's just staring. Like,
you get a lot of those quiet scenes where he's not really doing much. He's just there in the background.
Because like lots of times in movies, scenes like that are very rare. Mm-hmm. And then if they're not too rare, well then it gets old. But with this one, it like seems like that never got old for me.
Yeah,
I was into it
every time. And it kind of has like that at home feel, because if you think about it, like if you're just kind of looking out the window, Halloween night, it's like you don't know what just happened over there next door at that house. You didn't hear anything. Mm-hmm. It was just quiet. Yeah, exactly. And it just gets creepy. It has that very weird vibe to it.
Yeah, I was super into Michael with the human side yet not, and just how like straightforward like the movie was. It was great. I loved it. It definitely it sparked the genre of slashers, and then sadly it kind of sparked the Hollywood cash grabs of them being like, wait, you made this movie for this much and you made this much money?
Yeah.
Let's just make shit movies and make lots of money. So unfortunately, greedy Hollywood had noticed that about the movie, where you'd wish that they noticed the film itself.
Right, exactly. Definitely.
But no, I'm a huge fan of this movie. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely going to now make sure I watch the rest of the movies, even though I know the reputation of the rest of them. Yeah. But yeah, that's me.
Okay. I'm gonna have to maybe give this one a 9.9 out of 10.
Ooh.
Because it's not 100% perfect. There are some awkward visual dialogue moments. There are some awkward, cheesy moments that some of them were intended. Granted, I know, but there's some that were just like, that's a little odd. But it barely makes a nick, and it makes me. It would be a 10 out of 10 if there wasn't like just like a little bit of stuff that barely took red over the edge, just a little bit. But yeah, no, it had a perfect balance of a really great slasher icon in general. It did spark the literal slasher straight up genre. Like this technically Johnny Depp's career kind of started, if you think about it, because it's
because more than likely in that one else, you probably wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like we wouldn't have Johnny Depp if we didn't have this movie. So thank this movie. But yeah, other than that, the kills were just straightforward. There was it was very creepy, realistic. He was supernatural yet human, so it was I think it was just an amazing movie. I think it's a 9.9 out of 10 for me. Yeah,
one of my favorite shots of the entire movie is the very ending shot where Michael falls off, and then he has the quick dialogue exchange with Jamie Lee Curtis, and then he walks over and realizes he's not there, and just when he looks down, realizes he's not there, and just that look on his face of just fear and like, I am partially responsible for this. Yeah. And it's just the look on his face, and they just hold it on his face and allow him to just show his emotion without even talking. This is one of my favorite shots of the entire movie. I'm going to give this a 9.9 out of 10 as well. I think just that 0.1, and I've never really had an issue with like the dubbing or anything like that where they dub over, but mainly because I've never really noticed it that much. The one issue I have is the issue I touched up on, and that is just that quick little bit where you hear Linda in the background talking, and I've always noticed that, and it's always annoyed me. But that is it for me. That is hardly even affects my rating at all. But it is still definitely one of my favorites. Yeah. But also, yeah, so they are going to, I guess John Carpenter is the producer on it, and they are going to be they are basically deleting everything that is after the original Halloween, as far as canon goes, and they are making a new Halloween movie that's coming out next Halloween, and it is continuing right from the end of this movie. Completely hyped for that. I honestly can't wait. But yeah, so
it's directed by Danny McBride, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and then I can't remember the other guy's name. Daniel. I can't remember. And that guy's wraps the October Horror Show. Be sure to check out the finale for the October Horror Show. Also, leave a like, subscribe, comment, and don't forget to hit the bell icon if you guys liked our video. Let us know in the comments if you like the movie. Have a discussion about it, and we'll see you guys next time.